The ravens came to her on the day she buried her brother, and everyone in Ashford Park said it was proof she'd been marked by something unholy. Raven Thorne didn't care what they said anymore. She'd stopped caring about most things 6 months ago when the accident took Eli from her. Now she spent her days tending the overgrown park on the edge of the city, the one families avoided, the one teenagers dared each other to walk through after dark. The municipality paid her barely enough to survive, but the job came with a tiny cottage on the grounds in solitude, which was all she wanted. The ravens were simply there one morning, perched along the iron fence like sentinels, their black eyes fixed on her as she swept leaves from the cracked fountain. She'd read once that ravens were among the smartest birds, that they remembered faces and held grudges. She'd also read they could be loyal. So she started bringing them food. Scraps of bread at first, then seeds, then proper raw meat from the butcher when she could afford it. The butcher, Mrs. Chen, always crossed herself when Raven asked for the offcuts, muttering about bad luck and worse omens. "They're just birds," Raven said quietly every single time. But they weren't just birds, and somewhere deep in her grieving heart she knew it. They were too intelligent, too watchful. They came when she called. They brought her trinkets, shiny bottle caps, and lost buttons, leaving them on her doorstep like offerings. And sometimes, late at night when she sat on her porch and talked to the empty air about Eli, about how much it hurt to lose him, about the gaping wound in her chest that wouldn't heal, the ravens would gather close and listen. Really listen, with an intensity that felt almost human. It was October when she first saw him. The stranger appeared at dusk, standing beneath the ancient oak where the ravens roosted. Raven had been scattering seed, talking to the birds in the soft, rambling way she'd adopted over the months, telling them about the book she was reading, about the neighbor who'd finally stopped offering condolences that felt like accusations. She looked up and went still, the bag of seed clutched in her hands. He was tall and utterly motionless, dressed in dark clothes that seemed to drink in the fading light, but it was his appearance that made her breath catch. His skin was pale, almost luminous in the twilight, and his hair fell in white waves past his shoulders. He looked like something carved from marble, beautiful and cold and absolutely otherworldly. She couldn't make out his features clearly at this distance, but she felt the weight of his gaze like a physical thing. The ravens launched from the tree, circling overhead, calling to each other in voices that sounded almost excited. "Can I help you?" Raven called out, her voice steadier than she felt. "The park closes at dark." He moved then, walking toward her with a grace that seemed wrong somehow, too fluid, too perfect. As he came closer, she saw his face clearly. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, eyes so dark they looked black in the dimness. He was perhaps the most beautiful person she'd ever seen, and the most unsettling. "I watch the ravens," he said, and his voice was deep and quiet, with an accent she couldn't place. "You care for them." Someone should. She forced herself not to step back as he stopped a few feet away. Everyone else treats them like they're diseased. They fear what they don't understand. His gaze moved from her to the circling birds, and something in his expression softened infinitesimally. "You don't fear them. I like them. They keep me company." She didn't know why she was telling this stranger anything, but the words came anyway. "They're better company than most people, honestly." The corner of his mouth lifted, just barely. "Yes, they are." A large raven landed on his shoulder with the familiarity of long practice, and Raven's eyes widened. The bird she'd privately named Obsidian, the biggest and boldest of the flock, nuzzled against the stranger's white hair like a cat seeking affection. "He trusts you," she said softly. "We have an understanding." The stranger reached up, running one pale finger along the raven's breast feathers. "I am Draven Blackthorne. I live nearby." "Raven Thorne." She smiled slightly at his reaction, the minute widening of his eyes. "Yes, really. My parents had a sense of humor. Or maybe it was destiny. Perhaps both." He was looking at her now with an intensity that should have frightened her, but instead made her feel seen for the first time in months. "You speak to them, the ravens." She felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I didn't know anyone could hear." "I hear many things." He tilted his head, and the raven on his shoulder did the same, an unconscious mimicry that would have been funny in any other circumstances. "You speak of your brother." The grief crashed over her fresh and sharp. She turned away, blinking hard. I should finish up. It's getting dark. Forgive me. His voice was closer now, though she hadn't heard him move. I did not mean to cause you pain. It's always there anyway. She scattered the last of the seed with trembling hands. One more person knowing doesn't make it worse. When she turned back, he was watching her with something in those dark eyes that looked almost like understanding, like recognition. The ravens had settled around them both, dotting the ground and the fence and the lower branches of the oak, silent observers of whatever strange moment this was. I will see you again, Raven Thorne, Draven said, and it wasn't a question. Probably. I'm here every day. He inclined his head, a gesture that felt oddly formal, almost courtly. Then he walked back into the gathering darkness, the ravens calling overhead, and Raven stood alone in the park wondering what had just happened. He came back the next evening and the evening after that, always at dusk, always quiet, always watching. At first, he simply stood at a distance while she went about her routine, tending the flowers, repairing the broken benches, feeding the ravens. Then, gradually, he began to help. Carrying the heavy bags of soil she'd bought, holding the ladder steady while she trimmed dead branches, speaking little but listening with absolute attention when she spoke. Raven told herself she didn't look forward to seeing him, told herself the flutter in her chest when he appeared was just surprise, just lingering grief making her vulnerable to kindness. But it was a lie, and she knew it. She was falling, slowly and inevitably, for this strange, silent man who appeared with the twilight and disappeared before full dark. Why do you only come at dusk? She asked one evening, 3 weeks after their first meeting. They were sitting on the park's one intact bench, the ravens perched around them like a living fence. Do you work nights? Something like that. His eyes were on the horizon, where the sun had just vanished. The day is difficult for me. Are you sick? He looked at her then, and something moved in his expression. Pain, perhaps, or regret. In a manner of speaking. It is a condition I was born with. She wanted to ask more, but the haunted look on his face stopped her. Instead, she said, The ravens follow you. I've noticed. They're here during the day, but when you arrive, they all gather, like they've been waiting. They are loyal creatures. His hand moved almost unconsciously to where Obsidian perched on the bench back above his shoulder. Loyal beyond measure. Do you train them? I've read about people who train corvids. Not trained. We have a bond. He seemed to be choosing his words carefully. They see what I cannot. They go where I cannot go. They are part of me, in ways that are difficult to explain. The words should have sounded mad, but they resonated with something Raven had felt for months. The uncanny intelligence in the raven's eyes, the way they seemed to communicate complex thoughts to each other. The way they looked at her sometimes, with what felt distinctly like compassion. I believe you, she said quietly. Draven's head turned sharply toward her. You do? I don't understand it, but yes, I believe you. She met his dark eyes steadily. There's something different about them, about you. I'm not stupid, Draven. I've known since the beginning that something about this whole situation is impossible, but I stopped questioning it because they've helped me. You've helped me. How? His voice was barely above a whisper. You listen. You don't tell me I should be over it by now, or that Eli's in a better place, or any of the useless platitudes everyone else offers. You just listen, and you stay, and you don't make me feel broken for still hurting. Her throat tightened. Do you know how rare that is? He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. His skin was cool, but his grip was gentle. You are not broken. You are grieving. There is no timeline for that, no proper way to do it. Anyone who suggests otherwise has never truly lost someone they love. You sound like you know. I have lived a long time, Raven Thorne. I have lost many people. The sorrow in his voice was ancient and deep. The pain never truly leaves. You simply learn to carry it. She turned her hand in his, threading their fingers together. How long? Too long to count the way humans do. The words hung in the air between them. Humans, not we. She should pull away, should demand answers, should be afraid, but all she felt was a strange, settling certainty, like a puzzle piece finally clicking into place. What are you? She asked. but it was curiosity now, not fear. Draven was silent for a long moment. The ravens had gone utterly still, watching. If I tell you everything changes, you cannot unknow it. I think I already know. I think I've known for a while now. She squeezed his hand. Say it anyway. I am vampire, not by choice, but by birth. I am old, Raven, older than this city, older than the countries that came before it, and I am a king among my kind, though that title has brought me more burden than privilege. His eyes searched hers. The ravens are mine. They are my eyes, my scouts, my way of seeing the world during the hours when I cannot walk in it. Through them, I see the sunlight I can no longer touch. Through them, I saw you. Her heart was pounding, but not with fear. With exhilaration, with the wild joy of having her impossible suspicions confirmed. How long have you been watching me? Since the day of your brother's funeral, the ravens were drawn to your grief. It called to them like a song, like a wound in the world. He looked almost ashamed. I should have stayed away, but I saw you through their eyes, saw your kindness, your fierce love even in mourning, saw you feeding creatures the whole world feared, speaking to them with such tenderness. I was captivated. You fell first, Raven said, and felt a giddy, incredulous laugh bubble up in her chest. The vampire king fell first. Is that so amusing? It's wonderful. She leaned closer, reckless, dizzy with revelation. Because I've been falling too, Draven, for weeks now. Even knowing something was impossible about you, I couldn't help it. His free hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheekbone with infinite gentleness. You should be afraid of me. Should I? Are you going to hurt me? Never. I would tear my own heart out first. Then why would I be afraid? She turned her face into his palm. Everyone else in my life has walked away or looked at me like I'm something tragic and uncomfortable. You stayed. You saw the worst of my pain, and you stayed. Monster or not, that makes you better than most humans I know. Raven, he said, and her name in his mouth sounded like a prayer. You undo me. She kissed him then, leaning across the small space between them to press her lips to his. He made a sound low in his throat, surprise and hunger, and something almost like pain. Then he was kissing her back, his cool mouth moving against hers with a desperate tenderness that made her chest ache. The ravens erupted around them, wings beating the air, calling in voices that sounded almost like celebration. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Draven rested his forehead against hers. You are everything I should not want, everything I cannot keep. Why not? Because I am what I am. Because my world is dangerous, full of ancient politics and blood laws and creatures far less restrained than I. Because you deserve sunshine and warmth and a mortal life filled with ordinary happiness. Raven pulled back enough to look him in the eye. Don't I get a say in what I deserve? In what I want? What do you want? You. This. Whatever we can have together. She touched his face, traced the sharp line of his jaw. I'm not asking for forever, Draven. I just want whatever time we have. His eyes closed. You are asking me to be selfish. I'm asking you to let yourself be happy. Is that really so terrible? When he looked at her again, something had shifted in his expression. A wall coming down, a decision being made. No, it is terrifying, but not terrible. So we can try? Really try? Yes. He kissed her again, softer this time, and spoke against her lips. Yes, Raven mine. We can try. The weeks that followed were the happiest Raven had known since before Eli's death. Draven came every evening without fail, and they walked the park together, talking about everything and nothing. He told her stories of the long centuries he'd lived, of empires rising and falling, of the hidden world of vampires that existed alongside humanity like a shadow. She told him about her childhood, about Eli's laugh, about her dreams of someday running a wildlife sanctuary. I have land, Draven said one evening. They were sitting in her cottage, her small space made smaller by his presence, but in a way that felt intimate rather than claustrophobic. Miles of it, beyond the city. No one goes there. It is mine, bought decades ago and carefully forgotten. What do you do with it? Nothing. I simply hold it, keep it wild. He was running his fingers through her dark hair, the gesture absent and affectionate. But it could be something. if you wanted. A sanctuary? Her heart leaped. For the ravens, for any creatures that need refuge. His eyes met hers. For you, if you wished it. Are you asking me to move in with you? A smile ghosted across his face, the expression still rare enough to feel like a gift. Eventually, when you are ready, there is no rush, beloved. Beloved. The endearment made her melt every time. I like the sound of that. A place where the feared can be safe. It seems fitting for a woman who befriended the unfriendable. He kissed her temple. We could build it together. I'd like that. She curled closer against his side, his coolness a comfort against her skin. Draven, can I ask you something? Anything. Have you ever thought about turning someone, making them like you? She felt him go still. Why do you ask? Just curious. You said you were born vampire, but I've read enough books to know that's not always how it works. It is possible to turn a human. It requires an exchange of blood, a deliberate choice by both parties, and a certain constitutional strength in the human. Many do not survive the transformation. His voice was carefully neutral. Why? Would you ever want to? With me, I mean. Draven pulled back to look at her fully, his expression serious. Do you want that? Raven considered carefully. I don't know. Part of me is curious. Part of me thinks it might be the only way we could really have a future together, you know? If I'm going to age and you're not. You would give up the sun? Your warmth? The ease of walking through the world unnoticed? He touched her face with aching gentleness. I would never ask that of you, Raven. I know you wouldn't ask. But what if I offered? He was quiet for a long moment. Ask me again in a year, when the newness of this has worn off, when you have seen more of my world and understand the full weight of what you would be trading. If you still want it then, we will discuss it seriously. It wasn't a no. It was the answer of someone who loved her enough to make sure she knew what she was choosing. Raven kissed him, long and deep, and felt him shudder against her. I love you, she said when they broke apart. I know it's fast, I know it's probably crazy, but I love you. It is not crazy. It is the sanest thing in my long existence. He cradled her face in both hands. I love you, Draven Thorne. With everything I am, everything I have been. I love you. They stayed tangled together on her small couch until just before dawn, when Draven reluctantly pulled away. I must go before the sun rises. I know. She walked him to the door, their hands linked. Same time tomorrow? Every tomorrow you will have me. She watched him disappear into the pre-dawn darkness, the ravens launching from their perches to follow him like a living shadow. Obsidian was the last to go, landing on her porch rail and fixing her with one bright eye before cawing softly and flying after his master. Raven went back inside, wrapped herself in the blanket that still held Draven's scent, and fell asleep, smiling. She woke to pounding on her door and angry voices. Disoriented, still half in dreams, she stumbled to answer it. 3 people stood on her porch, 2 men and a woman, all dressed in dark tactical gear. The woman in front held up a badge that said something about wildlife control, but her eyes were hard and cold. Draven Thorne, we need to speak with you about the ravens. What about them? Raven's heart started to pound. They're a menace. We've had complaints from all over the city, attacks on pets, property damage, aggressive behavior toward children. The woman's voice was clipped, professional. We have authorization to cull the flock. Cull? You mean kill them? Horror washed through her. No, they haven't done anything wrong. People are just afraid of them. Fear based on legitimate concerns. One of the men stepped forward. We've tracked the flock here. This is their primary roosting site. We'll be conducting the operation this afternoon. You can't. This is a public park. You can't just come in and massacre birds. Raven was shaking now, with fury and terror. I'll call the mayor. I'll call the news. We have all the permissions we need. The woman's smile was sharp. But we're informing you as a courtesy, since you're the park keeper. I'd suggest you make yourself scarce for the next few hours. It won't be pleasant to witness. They left, and Raven stood frozen on her porch, her mind racing. This wasn't about complaints or public safety. The cold professionalism, the tactical gear, the way they'd looked at her, like they were searching for something. These weren't wildlife control. They were hunters. And if they killed the ravens, they would blind Draven. Or worse. She didn't understand the full extent of his bond with the birds. But she knew it was deep, fundamental. Losing them would hurt him, maybe even kill him. She had to warn him. But it was barely noon, and he'd told her he couldn't come before dusk. The sun was deadly to him. She had no way to reach him, no phone number, no address. Panic clawed at her throat. Unless. She ran back inside, grabbed her phone, and went to the oak tree. Ravens were everywhere, more than she usually saw during the day. They watched her with urgent, intelligent eyes. "I need to find Draven," she said, feeling ridiculous but desperate. "Can you understand me? I need to find him. They're going to kill you, all of you, and I need to warn him." Obsidian landed on her shoulder, heavy and solid. He cawed once, sharp and commanding, and then launched skyward. The other ravens followed, and Raven understood. "Follow us." She ran. Out of the park, down streets she barely registered, following the black cloud of ravens as they led her deeper into the city. They took her to the old district, where buildings from the previous century still stood in various states of decay and renovation, down a narrow street lined with antique shops and closed cafes, to a door painted black, set into a stone facade that looked like it hadn't changed in 100 years. The ravens settled on the wrought iron balconies above, silent now, watching. Raven hammered on the door with her fist, then found the bell and pressed it repeatedly. No answer. She tried the handle. Locked. "Draven!" she shouted. "Draven, I know you're in there. I know it's daytime, I'm sorry, but they're coming for the ravens. Please, I need to talk to you." Nothing. The windows above were shuttered, the building silent as a tomb. Raven felt tears of frustration burning in her eyes. Then Obsidian swooped down and landed on the door handle, pecking at it insistently. She looked closer and saw what the bird was indicating: a small panel, almost invisible in the black paint. A keypad. "I don't know the code," she told the raven helplessly. Obsidian cawed and flew to the ground, scratching at the concrete with one talon. 4 scratches. Then he moved and made 3 more. Then 7. Then 1. 4, 3, 7, 1. Raven punched it into the keypad with shaking fingers. Something clicked, deep and heavy, and the door swung inward. She stepped into darkness, her eyes struggling to adjust. A hallway stretched before her, lit by faint emergency lighting near the floor. Stone walls, more suited to a castle than a city building. She moved forward, the ravens crowding in behind her, until she had to shoo them back. "Stay outside. Keep watch. Warn me if those hunters come." The birds obeyed, reluctantly, and she continued down the hall. It opened into a larger space, and as her eyes adjusted, she gasped. It was beautiful, like stepping into another century. Vaulted ceilings, antique furniture, tapestries on the walls, and everywhere, absolute darkness. Every window was covered with heavy blackout curtains, every crack sealed. Not a single ray of sunlight penetrated this place. "Draven," her voice echoed, "please, I need help." A door opened to her left and he appeared. He looked wrong in the dim light, paler than usual, moving slowly. His eyes, when they found her, were wide with alarm. "Raven, what are you doing here? How did you—" He saw the scratches on her hands from running through branches, the wild terror in her eyes, and was beside her in an instant. What happened? Hunters. They came to the park. They said they have authorization to cull the ravens, but Draven, they weren't normal wildlife control. They were looking for something. They're going to kill them all this afternoon. His face went absolutely still, cold in a way she'd never seen. When he spoke, his voice was soft and deadly. "Describe them." She did, every detail she could remember. The tactical gear, the woman's sharp smile, the way they'd watched her. As she spoke, Draven's expression grew darker. "Van Helsing Society," he said quietly. "Vampire hunters masquerading as officials. They have tracked the ravens to me, or close enough. They will kill the birds to blind me, then come for me directly. Can't you just stay inside? Hide here until they give up? They will not give up. And the ravens are not just my eyes, Raven. They are part of my essence. To kill them all would not merely blind me. It would tear pieces from my soul. He gripped her shoulders. Some I could survive losing. But if they kill them all at once, the psychic shock alone could destroy me. Then we have to stop them. Her mind was racing. How many ravens are in the flock? 43. And they're all at the park right now? Not all. Some are here, some scattered across the city. But most are at the park, yes. It is their home territory. His eyes narrowed. What are you thinking? We scatter them. If they're not all in one place, the hunters can't get them all at once. She was pacing now, thinking out loud. The ravens are smart enough to understand danger, right? And they can communicate with each other? Yes. So we send out a warning through them. Tell them to leave the park, spread out across the city, hide, make it impossible for the hunters to find them all. She turned to face him. Can you do that? Command them somehow? Draven's expression shifted, hope dawning in his dark eyes. Yes, I can send the message through Obsidian, have him relay it to the others. But Raven, the hunters will know someone interfered. They may come after you. Let them. I'm not letting them murder innocent creatures to get to you. She grabbed his hand. Please, Draven, we have to try. He pulled her close, kissing her forehead. You are extraordinary. Yes, we will try. But first, I need you safe. You will stay here. Not a chance. Raven. Those ravens trusted me first. Before they were your eyes, they were my friends. I'm not hiding while they're in danger. She met his gaze steadily. We do this together, or I go alone. A muscle ticked in his jaw, but after a moment he nodded. Together. But you follow my lead, and if I tell you to run, you run. Agreed? Agreed. They worked quickly. Draven went to one of the shuttered windows, and Raven saw how he flinched when he pulled the curtain back even an inch, the thin line of daylight making his skin smoke. He retreated immediately, and Obsidian flew to the narrow opening. Draven stood in the shadows, his hand outstretched, and the Raven watched him with absolute focus. Whatever passed between them was silent and profound. Raven could feel it in the air, a thrumming tension like electricity. Then Obsidian launched from the windowsill, and through the gap in the curtains, Raven saw the sky darken as ravens rose from every perch, every roof, every hidden corner. The flock, gathering. They understand, Draven said softly. They will scatter and hide. The hunters will find an empty park. What about you? Will you be okay with them so dispersed? It will be disorienting, but manageable. Like having my attention pulled in 43 directions at once. He let the curtain fall, sealing them back in protective darkness. I have lived through worse. And now? Now we wait and we plan. Because you are right, the hunters will not stop. They will search for the ravens, and when they cannot find them, they will come here. His expression was grim. We need to be ready. They spent the next hours preparing. Draven showed her his home, the multiple escape routes he'd built into the old building, the basement that connected to the city's abandoned tunnel system, the reinforced safe room where he could retreat if sunrise caught him unprepared. It was the home of someone who had learned over centuries never to be cornered. You've been hunted before, Raven said quietly. Many times. It is the price of what I am. He was loading old-fashioned crossbows with what looked like wooden bolts, but never with so much to lose. She went to him, wrapped her arms around him from behind. We're going to be okay. You cannot know that. No, but I believe it anyway. She pressed her face against his back. I believe in you. In us. He turned in her arms, and the vulnerability in his expression made her chest ache. I have lived centuries feeling nothing, Raven. Existing but not living. You have given me a reason to fight, to want to see tomorrow. If anything happens to you because of me, it won't. We're going to be smart and careful, and we're going to outwit a bunch of humans who think they know how to hunt a king. She smiled up at him. They have no idea what they're dealing with. A slow smile spread across his face, predatory and beautiful. No, they do not. A raven crashed against the window, the impact hard enough to crack the glass. Draven was moving before Raven could even process what had happened, throwing open the curtain despite the dying afternoon light. The bird fell, and he caught it in his bare hands, his skin smoking where the sun touched it. Then he was back in the shadows, cradling the injured raven against his chest. It was obsidian. Blood matted his feathers, and one wing hung at a wrong angle. No, Raven breathed, rushing over. What happened? Did the hunters find him? Draven's face was twisted with pain, his own or the bird's, she couldn't tell. Shot, arrow. His hands were glowing faintly, a silver light pulsing from his palms into the injured raven. He came to warn us. They are close, the hunters, following the ravens they managed to track. Can you heal him? I am trying, but the arrow was iron, poisoned with something that burns. The light intensified, and obsidian made a weak, pained sound. Hold him, carefully. Support the wing. Raven took the bird from him, cradling the raven's body while Draven worked. She'd never seen him use power like this, never knew he could. The silver light flowed like water, like moonlight made tangible, and where it touched, the raven's wounds began to close. But it was slow, agonizing, and she could see the toll it took on Draven. His face grew gaunt, his hands trembling. "Stop," she said when his knees buckled. "You're killing yourself." "He will die if I stop. And you'll die if you don't. Draven, please." He kept going for another minute, then sagged, the light fading. Obsidian was breathing easier now, the worst of the wounds closed, but the wing was still damaged. The raven fixed one bright eye on Draven, then on Raven, and she felt the weight of trust in that gaze. "Rest," she told the bird softly. "We've got you." A sound from outside made them both freeze. Footsteps. Multiple people, moving with military precision. Draven pushed himself upright, swaying. "The safe room, now!" "You can barely stand." "I can fight. Move, Raven." But she was already shaking her head. "They'll trap you in there. You said it yourself, it's for hiding, not defending." Her mind raced. "The tunnels. We use the tunnels. In daylight, I will not make it 3 steps before the sun. Then I'll carry you, cover you." She was already shrugging off her jacket, looking for anything that could shield him. "We stay ahead of them until dark. How long until sunset?" He glanced at the covered windows, and she realized he could feel the sun's position like a weight. 2 hours, maybe less. We can manage 2 hours. Glass shattered upstairs. Voices called out, efficient and cold. "Basement," the woman's voice commanded. "He'll run for the tunnels. Cut him off." "They know your escape route," Raven whispered. Draven's smile was sharp and feral. "They know one of them. There are others." He led her deeper into the house, obsidian cradled carefully in her arms. Through a door that looked like a wine cellar, down stone steps that seemed medieval in origin. At the bottom, he pressed something on the wall, and a section of stone swung inward, revealing a narrow passage. "This leads to the old city, the tunnels beneath tunnels that even the hunters do not know." He stepped through, and Raven followed, the door grinding shut behind them. Absolute darkness swallowed them. "I can't see," Raven said, fighting panic. "I can. Take my hand. Trust me." She did, and he led her forward through the black. She heard water dripping, felt the air grow colder and damper. Obsidian stirred in her arms, his heartbeat steady against her chest. They walked for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Draven's hand steady and sure in hers. Then light appeared ahead, faint and greenish. Draven stopped. "We are beneath the river now. There is an access tunnel used for maintenance. We can surface there, but Raven, it opens to the street, to daylight." "How far to shelter on the other side?" 100 yards. There is an old church, deconsecrated, that I own. We will be safe there. Then we run. I'll shield you as much as I can. The sun will burn me badly in seconds. Then we have to be very fast." She shifted obsidian to one arm, took off her shirt, leaving herself in just a tank top. "Wrap this around your head and hands. It's not much, but it's something." He stared at her. "You will freeze." "I'll survive. Do it." He obeyed, his movements jerky with reluctance. The thin cotton wouldn't save him, they both knew, but it might buy precious seconds. Raven could hear sounds behind them now, echoing strangely in the tunnels. The hunters had found the hidden door. "Ready?" Draven asked. "Ready." He shouldered open the maintenance door, and sunlight poured in. Draven made a sound of agony, his skin smoking immediately, even through the makeshift covering. Raven grabbed his arm and pulled, and they ran. It was the longest 100 yards of her life. Draven was stumbling, weakening with every step. The thin shirt was smoldering, small flames licking at the fabric. Raven could smell burning flesh, and her stomach churned. But the church loomed ahead, its shadow a promise of safety. They crashed through the door, and the relative darkness inside was like a benediction. Draven collapsed, and Raven went down with him, still holding obsidian. She set the raven carefully aside and turned to Draven. His face and hands were a mass of blisters, his white hair singed black at the edges. He was shaking violently. "Draven, Draven, stay with me." She cupped his burned face, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You made it. You're safe now. You carried me." His voice was a rasp. "You could have left me. Never. Do you hear me? Never." She kissed his forehead gently. "Rest. Heal. I'll keep watch. The hunters will have to come through me to get to you." He tried to laugh, and it came out as a cough. "My fierce raven." "Your raven," she agreed. "Now sleep. Let your body heal." His eyes closed, and his breathing deepened. Raven looked around the abandoned church, taking stock. High windows let in light, but the interior was dim, full of shadows. The door they'd entered through was solid wood, with a heavy bar. She dropped it into place, securing them in. Obsidian hopped closer, his wing dragging slightly. He looked from Raven to Draven and back, and she nodded. "I'll protect him, I promise." The raven settled down beside Draven's head, a guard and a companion. Raven found a relatively clean corner and kept watch, listening for sounds of pursuit. Hours crawled by. The light through the high windows gradually shifted, deepening toward evening. Draven's wounds were healing, slowly, the blisters fading, the angry red burns fading to pink and then to his normal alabaster. When his eyes finally opened, the sun had set, and the church was lit only by streetlights filtering through stained glass. "How long?" he asked. 4 hours, maybe. The hunters didn't find us. Or if they did, they decided breaking into a church to get to you wasn't worth it." He sat up slowly, testing his body. Obsidian fluttered up to his shoulder, and Draven's hand came up to steady the bird. "You saved my life. Both of you. You've saved mine every day since we met." Raven moved to sit beside him. "We're even. We will never be even. You ran into sunlight for me." His hand found hers, their fingers lacing together. "You could have been killed by the hunters, by the crossing. You could have left me and been safe. Safety without you isn't safety. It's just emptiness." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I love you. That means I don't get to choose the easy way out when things get hard." Draven turned to look at her, and in the multicolored light through the stained glass, he looked like an angel. A dangerous, beautiful, otherworldly angel. "Marry me." Raven's breath caught. "What?" "Marry me. By vampire law or human law or any law that will bind us together." His voice was fierce, urgent. "I have lived centuries, Raven Thorne, and I have never wanted anything the way I want a life with you. I want every day you will give me. I want to build that sanctuary with you, protect those ravens, protect you. I want forever, even knowing your forever is shorter than mine. Marry me." She was crying again, but this time from joy. "Yes, God, yes. Yes, Draven." He kissed her, and it felt like a vow in itself. When they broke apart, obsidian cawed, the sound echoing through the empty church like a blessing. "We still have to deal with the hunters," Raven said practically even as she smiled. They're not going to just give up. No, but now we have time to plan properly. Draven stood, pulling her up with him. And I know where they will be. They will return to the park, searching for any ravens they missed. We will be waiting. We? His smile was sharp. My kind has remained hidden for centuries by working together. I may be a king, but I am not the only vampire in this city, and the hunters have made a critical error. They have threatened not just me, but what is mine. My people do not take such insults lightly. They left the church when full dark had fallen, obsidian flying ahead. Draven had healed completely, and with night around him, he seemed to gain strength with every step. He made a call on a phone he'd had hidden in the church, a brief conversation in a language Raven didn't recognize. When he hung up, his expression was satisfied. They are gathering. We will meet them at the park. How many? Enough. The park looked empty when they arrived, but Raven could feel the presence of watchers, shadows that didn't move quite right. Figures standing too still to be human. Draven led her to the fountain at the center, and one by one, vampires emerged from the darkness. There were 7 of them, each as pale and beautiful as Draven, each carrying themselves with the same inhuman grace. The first to approach was a woman with white hair down to her waist, dressed in leather that looked medieval. My king, she said, bowing, we heard your call. Lyria, thank you for coming. Draven's hand was warm on the small of Raven's back. This is Raven Thorne, my beloved. She is under my protection, and by extension, yours. Lyria's sharp gaze assessed Raven, and after a moment, she smiled. It was a predator's smile, but not unkind. Any human brave enough to love our king is worthy of our protection. Welcome, Raven Thorne. The others echoed the sentiment, and Raven felt overwhelming gratitude. These creatures could tear her apart without effort, but they were offering her safety because she belonged to Draven. The hunters, Draven asked, camped at the park entrance waiting for dawn. This from a male vampire with scars across his face and ancient eyes. 3 of them, well armed, but they do not expect us. They think I am alone, injured, easy prey. Draven's voice was cold. Let us teach them otherwise. They spread out through the park, silent as death. Raven stayed close to Draven, who had insisted she remain with him. She could see the hunters now, sitting by a small fire near the park gates, the woman from before, the 2 men. They looked confident, relaxed. They had no idea they were surrounded. Draven stepped into the firelight, and all 3 hunters scrambled to their feet, weapons raised. Good evening, Draven said pleasantly. You have been hunting in my territory. The woman recovered first, her crossbow trained on Draven's chest. Draven Blackthorne, the Raven King. We wondered when you'd show yourself. And now I have. I am curious. What did you hope to accomplish by killing my ravens? To blind you, weaken you, make you vulnerable. Her smile was cold. We've been tracking you for months, learning your patterns. The birds were the key. Kill them, and you lose your greatest advantage. Ingenious, but flawed. Draven tilted his head. You assumed I would be alone. The other vampires stepped into the light, surrounding the hunters. Lyria, the scarred male, the others. A circle of apex predators, patient and deadly. The hunters went pale, realizing their mistake. You cannot kill us, the woman said, but her voice shook. We have reinforcements. We have the society behind us. And I have an eternity of patience and an entire species at my back. Draven's voice dropped, became something ancient and terrible. You hunted what was mine. You threatened the woman I love. You broke the oldest of our laws, the law that says hunters who come for a vampire in their own domain forfeit all protection. What do you want? This from one of the men, his weapon lowering. We were following orders. I want peace. I want to be left alone with my beloved, to build the life we have planned. Draven's expression softened slightly. But I am also a king, and I cannot let this go unanswered. So you'll kill us? No. Draven glanced at Raven, and she saw the conflict in his eyes.
He was a predator, a king, a creature of violence, but he was also hers, and he was trying to be better. No, I will offer you a choice. What choice? The woman asked warily. Leave this city, leave this territory, return to your society and tell them that the Raven King is not alone, is not weak, and will not be hunted. Tell them that I have a treaty with the vampires here, that we have agreed to protect each other. His voice hardened. And tell them that if they come for me again, they will face not one vampire but dozens. Make them understand that the cost of my death is too high. The hunters exchanged looks. Finally, the woman lowered her crossbow. You're letting us go? With a message and a warning. If I ever see any of you in my territory again, my mercy will be exhausted. His eyes flashed red just for a moment. Do we have an understanding? Yes, the woman said quickly. Yes, we understand. Good. Then go. They went, gathering their gear and fleeing into the night like rabbits before wolves. The vampires watched them go, and when they were out of sight, Lyria laughed. Mercy, my king, how very modern of you. My beloved has taught me that killing is not always the answer. Draven pulled Raven close against his side. And she is right. They will carry our message, and the society will think twice before hunting here again. And if they do not? The scarred vampire asked. Then we will be ready. Draven looked around at his people. Thank you, all of you. I will not forget this. You are our king, Lyria said simply. We protect what is yours. The vampires melted back into shadows, and soon Raven and Draven were alone in the park. Obsidian landed on Draven's shoulder, followed by more ravens, the scattered flock returning home. Within minutes, the trees were full of them, their eyes gleaming in the darkness. They're all here, Raven said softly. You didn't lose any. Because of you. Because you thought quickly and acted bravely. He turned to face her fully. I meant what I said earlier. Marry me, Raven. Let us build that sanctuary, that life. Be my queen, not in title but in truth. I'm human. I can't be a vampire queen. You can be my queen, my partner, my love. He took her hands. The rest is just details. She kissed him, and the ravens called overhead, a wild and joyful sound. When they broke apart, she was grinning. Okay, yes, let's do this. Let's build something beautiful. Over the next 6 months, they did exactly that. Draven had been serious about the land he owned, miles of forest and meadow well beyond the city limits. They built the sanctuary there, a sprawling complex of aviaries and habitats, with a small cottage at its center for Raven. And next to it, connected by a covered walkway, a larger house for Draven, built to his specifications with multiple layers of light protection and underground rooms where he could retreat during the day. The ravens took to the sanctuary immediately, claiming it as their new territory. Other birds came too, injured and abandoned creatures that Raven nursed back to health. The sanctuary became known, whispered about, a place where the lost could find refuge. They married on a cold December night, under a sky full of stars. The ceremony was held in the sanctuary, with the vampires of the city as witnesses and the ravens as honor guard. Lyria officiated, using words in the old language that Draven translated quietly for Raven. Promises of protection, partnership, eternal loyalty. When they kissed as husband and wife, the ravens took flight, hundreds of them now, filling the sky with wings and cries of celebration. I love you, Raven said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. And I love you, my fierce, wonderful Raven. Draven held her close. Thank you for feeding the birds everyone feared. Thank you for seeing past the monster to the man beneath. You were never a monster. You were just lonely. Not anymore. He kissed her again. Never again. The question of turning came up again, as Raven had known it would. They were lying in bed one night, wrapped around each other, when Draven said quietly, It has been more than a year. If you still want to become like me, I will do it. Raven was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Do you want me to? I want you to choose what makes you happy. If that is mortality, warmth, the sun on your face, then I want that for you. If it is immortality beside me, then I want that too. His fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder. I will love you regardless, for whatever time we have. I've been thinking about it, Raven admitted, and I realized something. I like being human. I like the sun. I like the warmth and the certainty that my time is precious because it's limited. She turned to face him. But I also love you, and I want as much time with you as I can have. So what do you want? I want to stay human, to live my mortal life fully, doing the work I love, building this sanctuary with you. And when I'm old, when I've lived a full life, if I still feel the same way then, ask me again. She touched his face gently. I want to grow old loving you, and then, if you'll have me, I want to be young with you forever after. Is that selfish? It is human. It is perfect. He kissed her, slow and deep. I will wait. I have eternity, beloved. I can wait for you to be ready. And you won't resent me for aging, for changing. I will treasure every line, every gray hair, every mark of the life you have lived. His voice was fierce. You will be beautiful to me always. And he meant it. Over the years that followed, as Raven's dark hair began to show threads of silver, as fine lines appeared at the corners of her eyes, Draven looked at her with the same wonder he had from the beginning. He was constant while she changed, ageless while she aged, and it never seemed to bother him. If anything, he grew more protective, more tender, as if every year she gave him was a gift beyond price. The sanctuary flourished. Word spread of the place where injured birds could find healing, where the feared were welcomed. People came from across the region, bringing wounded ravens, injured raptors, any creature that needed help. Raven hired staff, trained volunteers, expanded the facilities. Draven worked at night, handling the administrative side, dealing with donations and grants and the endless bureaucracy of running a nonprofit. They were happy, deeply, simply happy, in a way neither had imagined possible. When Raven turned 60, she came to Draven with a decision. They were sitting on the porch of their cottage, watching the sunset together, his hand in hers. I'm ready, she said quietly. If you still want to turn me. Draven's hand tightened on hers. Are you certain? Once done, it cannot be undone. I'm certain. I've lived a full human life. I've done the work I wanted to do. The sanctuary is established, thriving. I have no regrets. She looked at him, at the face that had remained unchanged while hers had aged. And I'm not ready to leave you. I want more time. I want forever, if forever is an option. It is always an option. But Raven, at your age, the turning is more dangerous. The body must be strong enough to survive the transformation. I know. I've read everything I could find about it. I know the risks. She smiled. But I'm strong. I've always been strong, and I have the best reason in the world to survive. Me, you, and this place, and all the work we still have to do. She brought his hand to her lips, kissed his knuckles. Turn me, Draven. Make me yours in every way. He studied her for a long moment, searching her face for any doubt. Finding none, he nodded slowly. Then we will do it properly. Not tonight, but soon. I will prepare, gather what I need to give you the best chance. And we will do it together, with Lyria here to help if things go wrong. Nothing will go wrong. Your optimism is one of the things I love most about you. He pulled her close, and she rested her head on his shoulder. Very well, my Raven. Let us make you immortal. The preparation took a week. Draven consulted with other vampires, researched, made Raven rest and eat well to build her strength. When the night came, Raven was nervous but resolute. They lay together in the bedroom they'd shared for decades, Lyria standing watch nearby. It will hurt, Draven warned. The venom in my bite will feel like fire in your veins. Your body will fight it at first. You must hold on. Stay conscious as long as you can. The transformation takes 3 days. I can do this. I know you can. He kissed her gently. I love you. I have loved you for more than 40 years, and I will love you for eternity beyond. I love you too, Now stop stalling and bite me." He laughed, the sound ragged with emotion. Then he bent to her neck, and his fangs pierced her skin. The pain was immediate and excruciating, worse than anything she'd ever felt. Raven gasped, her body arching, but she didn't scream. She held on, focused on Draven's face, on his presence. He pulled back after a moment, his own wrist bleeding where he'd bitten it, and pressed it to her mouth. "Drink. You must take my blood to complete the exchange." She drank, and it was strange, coppery and sweet and wrong. But she swallowed again and again until Draven gently pulled away. "Enough. Now we wait." The waiting was the worst part. The fire spread through her body, burning along her veins, consuming her from the inside. She was dimly aware of Draven holding her, of Lyria's voice saying something, but the pain was everything. She drifted in and out of consciousness, lost in fever dreams where she was flying with the ravens, where she could see through their eyes, where she was falling and flying all at once. On the third day, the pain stopped. Raven opened her eyes, and the world was different. Sharper, brighter, full of colors and sounds she'd never noticed before. She could hear Draven's heartbeat, slow and steady beside her, could smell the blood in his veins, and the strange thing was that it didn't repel her. It smelled like life, like warmth, like home. Draven. Her voice was different too, clearer somehow. "I am here." His face appeared above her and she gasped. He was beautiful, had always been beautiful, but now she could see every detail. The silver flecks in his dark eyes, the perfect architecture of his bone structure, the way his white hair caught and held light. "How do you feel?" "Different, strong." She sat up and the movement was effortless, like her body weighed nothing. "It worked. I can feel it. I'm like you now." "You are vampire. My vampire." He was crying, she realized, silver tears tracking down his face. "You survived. You are here." She kissed him, and even that was different, more intense, every sensation magnified. When they broke apart, she laughed, joy bubbling up irrepressibly. "We did it. We actually did it." Lyria stepped forward, smiling. "Welcome to immortality, Draven Blackthorne. Your king chose well when he chose you." The name startled her. Blackthorne. She was Draven Blackthorne now, his wife in truth, his partner in every way. Human and vampire, mortal and immortal, all bound together. Over the following months, Draven taught her how to control her new abilities, how to move with vampire speed, how to hear the heartbeats of humans from a distance, how to see in perfect darkness, how to feed, which was strange at first but became easier with practice. They used blood banks, ethical sources, never hunting. And Raven found that she was stronger than most new vampires, her decades of human life giving her an unusual level of control. The sanctuary continued to thrive. Raven worked at night now, alongside Draven, and they hired human staff to manage daytime operations. The Ravens recognized the change in her immediately, treating her with the same reverence they showed Draven. Obsidian, ancient now even for a raven, landed on her shoulder one evening and made a soft, approving sound. "He says welcome," Draven translated, smiling. "He says you have always been one of us, but now it shows. Tell him thank you. For everything." Raven stroked the raven's feathers gently. "For bringing us together. He knows. They all know." Life settled into a new rhythm. Decades passed, then a century. The sanctuary grew, becoming world-renowned. Raven and Draven became legends in the conservation world, the ageless couple who dedicated their immortal lives to protecting creatures others feared. They never revealed what they were, but people whispered, wondered, created myths around them. And through it all, they loved each other with the fierce, constant devotion that had drawn them together in the first place. On the anniversary of the day Raven had first fed the ravens, they always returned to Ashford Park, now beautifully restored and thriving. They stood by the old oak tree, surrounded by ravens, and remembered. "Do you ever regret it?" Draven asked one such anniversary, his arms around her. "Choosing this life?" "Never, not for a single moment." Raven leaned back against him, watching the sky fill with wings. You gave me everything I never knew I needed. Purpose, love, forever. You gave me the same. You taught me that immortality is meaningless without someone to share it with. He kissed the top of her head. You taught me to live again, my fierce raven, my beloved, my queen. Above them, the ravens called, their voices carrying across the city. Once feared, now beloved, they were guardians and friends, the eyes of the vampire king and the heart of the sanctuary that protected all who needed refuge. And at the center of it all, two souls who had found each other against impossible odds, who had chosen love over fear, forever over convenience. Raven turned in Draven's arms, kissed him deeply, and whispered against his lips, "Thank you for being worth feeding the birds everyone feared." He laughed, the sound joyful and free. "Thank you for having the courage to feed them. My eyes showed me you, beloved, and my heart could do nothing but follow." The ravens circled overhead, their wings catching the moonlight, and the world was full of possibility and promise. They had forever now together, and they would spend every moment of it building something beautiful. A sanctuary, a love, a life that spanned the boundary between human and vampire, mortal and immortal, fear and trust. In the end, it was simple. A girl had fed the ravens everyone feared, and the ravens had belonged to the vampire king all along. But instead of horror, there was love. Instead of tragedy, there was triumph. And instead of an ending, there was only a beginning, stretching forward into an eternity of shared tomorrows. They walked home hand in hand, immortal and invincible, surrounded by the birds that had brought them together and the love that would keep them together forever. Behind them, Ashford Park settled into peaceful night, the ravens keeping watch, guardians of the threshold between the human world and the ancient realm of vampires. Guardians of the greatest love story their world had ever known. And they lived, truly lived, happily ever after.